as soon as the clients are AI, I mean, I've seen Terminator. I know what happens, right?
Where's
the
your positivity?
Well, hopefully, I'm in my 50s now. Hopefully, I'll be
has a happy ending.
Yeah, I'll be dead. Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering who the John Connor of CMS will be.
I haven't watched Terminator. I feel like I have to say that now, because I can't make any Terminator jokes, or I'm not in on the joke. I hope it has, a good ending.
So, episode 1, first few seconds of the podcast of the first series, if we have multiple series, if we get
Very
renewed.
wishful thinking there.
Yeah, if we don't get cancelled. I think we probably should give a little bit of context of what the podcast is and kind of the types of guests we'll be having, who you and I are maybe. Yeah. Who are you, Linda?
Who are you, Bram? Why Unscripted? I think we wanted to come up with something that just felt like it wasn't prepared beforehand, which it's not. So that is genuine. So it's just a chance to have a proper conversation with some of our leaders, people who are leading on different things in the firm, find out more in a way that is real talk. You could have called it real talk. I think Unscripted is better. No, I think Unscripted is better.
We are a big firm now. We have like thousands and thousands of people in the firm. So there is that element as well of people. Some people might not have had the chance to get to know some of our leaders. Some of them will have worked with them for years. Some of them will have only seen them in the hall or just on camera or something like that. So it is a nice opportunity to get to find out a little bit more about who they are as people and about the different projects and initiatives that are happening in the
Which probably leads nicely to us now saying who we are.
Oh yes, yeah.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
Drum roll. So I'm Bram. Nice to meet you. I'm the head of brand and digital at the firm, and
I'm nodding. I know that. Yes.
Yes.
And I'm Linda. So I head up the ESG team, which includes sustainability and social impact. And I actually trained as a lawyer, and then went over to business services quite a few years ago now. So yeah.
And in the context of the podcast, we are just mainly the co-hosts.
Yes.
That's actually our primary role. First episode, we've got Charlie Currier on, who's our senior partner. In terms of leading on things, he's leading on the biggest thing of all, which is the entire firm. Are there any things that people should know before we dive in?
It was a great opportunity just to have a chat and find out a little bit more about his views on the firm. He's definitely got a contagious optimism, which I think after having the chat, you feel positive about the world, actually, a bit better. Definitely a glass half full. An uplifting conversation, which is nice because you want to feel positive.
Yeah, and I also think some of his priorities in the firm, like things like diversity and inclusion, come from a lived experience, which I think always gives it a lot more gravity and depth than if someone just does it because it's the done thing to do. So I think that comes out the conversation a little bit as well.
Definitely, and a sort of honesty about, we've all got our battery life and how we recharge our battery, and
social
battery,
not physical.
I don't have a physical battery. Do you have a physical battery?
No, I just wanted to clarify that. It's not a Duracell situation.
I need to go plug myself in.
Yeah.
Or Charlie. Social battery, and I guess energy for the role, which is obviously massive, and massive responsibility as well.
All right, episode 1.
Yes.
Series 1.
Done.
Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unscripted. Today we've got Charlie with us, our senior partner. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. It's your first podcast.
It is indeed. I was saying earlier, I feel like, a cross between Peter Crouch and Gary Lineker. Only much shorter.
Excellent. Let's channel.
You've chosen the best one to start with, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, I was just wondering, we're halfway through your first term. How are you feeling about that? What's kind of the dominant emotion for you at the moment? Are you enjoying the ride?
No, it's terrible. No, no, it's amazing. I mean, the time has passed so quickly. I'm sort of amazed when you said, it's nearly 2 years. It has genuinely sort of flown by. And yeah, really, really enjoying it. I feel so sort of lucky and privileged to hold this role. I've been here sort of 30 years and, the firm's kind of given me almost everything in my life. So yeah, it's great. I think the strategy seems to be going sort of well. Obviously got a new sort of managing partner coming in, so that'll be sort of exciting, some change there. So yeah, just really, really enjoying it.
Are there some things that are better than you thought? Maybe the ones that are worse than you thought you don't have to talk about, but some things that are maybe different from what you expected it to be?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, that first few months is probably like a challenge because it's a brand new job. As I say, despite the fact that I've been here a long time, you never quite know what you're sort of letting yourself in for, and it's a bit of a steep learning curve. But then you kind of naturally get into a bit of a cadence of the job, and you're not doing everything for the first time and thinking, I've no idea what I'm doing here. So, yeah, the things that are kind of better or worse than I'd expected. I mean, look, I'm surrounded by kind of really good people, so it's you never feel like it's just sort of you at any time. I think I did say to my wife that I thought going into the job that I had a limitless social battery. And then I have subsequently found out that it's not quite limitless.
You've reached the bottom a few times.
Well, just normally, so Monday to Thursdays, I'm kind of in meetings probably from 9 till 6, and then often at events sort of in the evenings. And then by the time it gets to sort of Friday, where I would typically work from home, you're thinking, right, I need to decompress a little bit. And that's probably my thinking day, where I kind of, read papers and think about, our plans, strategic plans to take over the world. So yeah, that bit was probably different to maybe how I'd expected it.
Well, what do you use to decompress, or what do you do to decompress over the weekend then?
Sure. Well, God, I sound so white and middle class, but I play golf the weekend. So I just find sort of like hitting a small ball around a field kind of a great way to kind of, just totally decompress.
You must be quite good then.
No, I'm a terrible golfer. So for most people, they'd be like, oh my God, that sounds incredibly stressful and kind of, and I'll probably let you into a secret. I used to be very, very competitive about lots of things. I think I've mellowed quite a lot. Obviously spending time with family and friends. I used to joke with so I've got two kids who are kind of now 18, well, about to turn 19, about to turn 21. And I used to sort of joke that, at home, I am the absolute sort of bottom of the pile. The kind of seniority sort of goes my wife, my daughter, my youngest,
the
our
dog.
Cats, fresh air me. And so, that is very grounding. When you just go home and you're just dad and you're just a husband and, everyone just takes the,
golf will do that as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in golf because my husband's always trying to sell it to me. He's like, it's a structured walk with lots of chatting.
Yep.
What do you like about it?
Well,
what would you add to that?
The sort of slightly cliched sort of joke is that it's the way to ruin a perfect walk is to play golf.
I like that. I might use that with him.
Yeah. That's good. It's like exercise. You're playing with friends. As I say, sort of a bit of time to sort of relax and unwind. Because I mean, the best bit of advice that Penelope gave me before I took the job is she said, you are always on duty because you're always kind of, representing the firm. And that's true. So actually just having an opportunity to, unwind and not think too much about stuff, that's always welcome.
Yeah, it's amazing what that focus on something very small can do to kind of relax you, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe recharge that social battery. Going back to the football, because you started off with the football, like halfway through, sort of team talk in the half time, what would you be saying?
Well, football is a very sore subject because I'm a Spurs fan.
Right, okay, apologies.
So it's very painful at the moment. I'd be saying, look, kind of good first half, but there's still plenty for us to sort of go for, still a lot to achieve, as I say, with Adrian coming in, there are sort of new plans that we're sort of implementing together. So it's kind of that balancing, though, pacing change because, there is a risk it can be unsettling for people. Just making sure that we're kind of introducing things in a kind of structured way. Look, I think we've got kind of all the ingredients that we need to be really, really successful. It's just about constantly sort of, following through on our plans and being kind of quite focused and disciplined about it.
You mentioned change, and you've obviously had a big change when you took on this role. How do you deal with change?
I think I'm pretty laid back. I'm pretty laid back sort of character. So I remember years ago, one of the associates who used to work with me said, "I've never seen you angry at work." And I thought about it and thought, I'm sure I must have got angry at some point. But she was probably right. Yeah. I mean, I'm very slow to sort of get annoyed about stuff.
That's why you like golf.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not one of these people that's like smashing their clubs around. So I think that kind of helps. As I say, I've always, kind of where I was raised was also kind of to see the best in people. I know, everyone is doing their absolute sort of best for the firm. My lovely kind of Scottish mum had a great phrase when I was growing up. She said, "Son, you'll get more bees with honey than vinegar," which I think was code for just be nice to people. It doesn't cost anything. And I'd like to think that's how I've kind of tried to live my life. And as you sort of make your way up an organisation, that feels even more important. Just be nice to people on the way up, because, you're going to need them on the way down as well. So, just try to be sort of kind of respectful, whilst always, I've always set very high standards for myself and others. So, but I think if you're kind of clear with people what your expectations are, then, that's probably how I've tried to live my life.
You're also quite big on inclusion and diversity, and does that come from the same angle then, in terms of that being given that as a child, respect? And
yeah. I mean, I think sort of learned some really interesting life lessons. So I've shared this before. I mean, I grew up in a single parent household. My parents divorced when I was a baby, and I never saw my father again. So, but I lived in a house full of love. So it was my sister and me. And my mum, and then, met my wife on the first day I started at CMS. She was in the same training intake as me. And, we've had two beautiful kids. So I suppose it's partly every household I've lived in, I've always been the only male, in that house. And now, one of my youngest is, non-binary and queer. So that's given me kind of fascinating insights into sort of other areas of diversity. But we had a sort of event for around race, and I was explaining that, why I feel so strongly about diversity and inclusion, belonging, is because I've always had that really strong sense of kind of fairness and opportunity. And despite coming from a sort of quite disadvantaged background, I always felt I kind of got that opportunity through my life. Won a scholarship to go to a good school, managed to get into university when it was still free, and then got this job, and I've had sort of mentors and sponsors along the way. So, I think it's so important to kind of pay that back. And I want the firm to be somewhere where there's genuine equality of opportunity, and then, then the quality will rise to the top, and we'll have a more diverse firm, more diverse group of leaders as a consequence of that. So, it's, these are kind of deeply held views that I have here.
What are some of the things that are really giving you hope at the moment?
Sure, because there's a bit of darkness out there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we need a bit of hope.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been an incredibly optimistic person. So my glass is not so much half full as kind of overflowing. And I fundamentally believe in the goodness of people, right? There are some people in the world that you kind of start to question and wonder about that. But I think, most people are just trying to do the best for themselves and their families and their friends and everything. So at the moment, I think, we are very lucky. We're in such a privileged position to work here. We've got, great colleagues, a great client base. We've got kind of real depth and breadth in our offering. We've got an amazing sort of business services team. So we've got, as I say, we've got everything that we need. We've got a really strong culture, I feel, within the firm. I think people really do care and support each other. I'm not sure that's prevalent across the whole of the legal sector. I think the key for us is really to carry on sort of pushing forward. We work in a very competitive sector. It's not, not standing still at all. So we've got to keep sort of pushing ourselves, holding ourselves kind of to account, so that we move forward, so we're successful as a business. Because I want to work in a firm that's successful and dynamic and has a good culture and good people, and I suspect that most of our colleagues feel the same. So I think we have that, but we can't take anything for granted. As soon as you start taking your foot off the gas and thinking, we're kind of doing all right, that's when you start going backwards, I think.
What makes CMS? You've mentioned culture a few times, and you've obviously been here quite a while. So there's something that's kept you here. What is that quantity?
It's the people, pure and simple. I joke. I drank the Kool-Aid, the CMS Kool-Aid, in an early age, and I keep going back. But no, it's the people that's the reason I've stayed. That I think just people are very friendly, down to earth, supportive. That's been my experience throughout my career. If I've ever kind of asked for help or anything like that, I've always got it. Look, there are other law firms out there that probably pay more money and stuff like that. But will you have that same enjoyment at work? I mean, as I say, I've drunk the Kool-Aid, but genuinely, I wake up every morning and I look forward to going to work because I just feel so lucky to work with such a amazingly sort of talented and nice bunch of people. It's really that. It's and that's where I sort of think, as senior partner, I really bear that responsibility for strengthening and growing our culture, because cultures are hard to create, easy to destroy, and they come from the top down in most organizations. So we've got to kind of preserve that. But as I say, still kind of have that hunger and drive to be successful and improve.
What cultures are really, it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because it's so hard to define, but everyone agrees that it's super important. What do you think we all need? What can you be doing? What do we all need to be doing to ensure we keep the culture, but actually evolve it? Because things are always changing, right?
Yeah. So if you said to me, describe our culture in sort of one sentence, I always say to people that we take our work very seriously, but we try not to take ourselves too seriously. And again, that's something I've kind of tried to sort of live through. I always think it's kind of quite healthy where people are sort of taking the mickey out of me and things like that. That shows a kind of really healthy culture, which is handy because that happens all the time.
I was about to say, did that change when you became senior partner?
Thank God.
Yeah,
I
okay,
did say to everyone, please, don't change. I'm going to try not to change too much. So, I think though where we have a very collaborative and collegiate culture, I think part of collegiality is that we hold ourselves to the highest standards and we hold each other to those same standards. I've heard people sometimes describe our culture as, we may be a bit soft or, whatever. I think we're, the way I would describe it is, we should aspire to be, it's just very nice and respectful and supportive of each other, but very ambitious and driven at the same time. And I don't see any mismatch between those two things. I think it's perfectly possible to be, successful as a business and still be full of nice people who care for each other.
I'm kind of interested in the culture piece. Like, how do you temperature test what the culture is? How do you know, I'm about to say, sitting on the 7th floor,
in
what
my
the
ivory
culture
tower, yeah.
in your it's not quite an ivory tower, it's a great view. How do you know what the culture is in different offices? How do you get that feeling?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, simply by talking to people. So try to sort of travel a lot and get out and talk to different people. As I say, my calendar is meetings from kind of 9 till 6 every day. So I am interacting with quite a lot of people across the whole firm. And you pick up the sense of how people are feeling through those conversations, how they're doing. And then obviously there's a big part about leadership that you're kind of role modeling, the culture that you want, the behaviors that you want people to demonstrate. And where I sort of said earlier, I never get angry, which genuinely I don't, but occasionally I get disappointed particularly if I think that people are not behaving in the way that we would want. And generally people find that me being disappointed is far worse than being sort of
disappointed dad.
Indeed. That is the phrase I often use. Communication is key. The one thing I've learned about management all these years is it's really just about communication. If you can get that right, then you're probably on the right path to doing it well.
You trained as a lawyer, obviously, and you did that for many, many years.
Yeah, very badly. Our PI,
I'm not commenting. It's still the lawyer in me is like, no comment.
Our PI premiums have come down significantly
Really
since
excellent.
I
That's
gave
good
up
to hear.
lawyering.
What do you miss anything about being a lawyer?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because if you actually, I probably should have said when Bram asked earlier, like what's been the biggest sort of surprise is probably that I haven't missed the fee earning work as much as I thought I would. Because as you say, it's what I've done for 30 years. What I definitely did miss was, the team. Because, I was interacting, with my team in corporate on a kind of daily basis, working with a group of, as I say, hugely talented people where I'm not doing that part. Obviously, I still sort of see them, but not working with them in that way. But I'm lucky I still have a lot of client contact. So I like to joke with people. I get all the best bits, which is meeting clients, talking about their business, talking about what they think of us, but none of the bad bits because I'm not negotiating M&A deals into the sort of small wee hours of the morning anymore. So I don't miss that bit that much.
Is that also one of the reasons that you're going quite big on the leading relationship law firm? It's something that is recurring in quite a lot of the strategies and so on. And that's I assume that's one of the reasons behind it then as well.
Yeah, and I suppose it goes back a bit to what we were saying about why have I stayed so long? Why do a lot of people stay here for a long time? It is that sort of it is those sort of personal relationships. I mean, I think that strategy just really plays to our strengths and plays to kind of how we see the market now, where you've got particularly as the US firms have come into the UK and now into other parts of where we operate across the rest of Western Europe, into the Middle East and APAC as well, is probably they've got a more transactional relationship with their clients, by which I mean, there's a narrow type of work that they want to do, sort of ultra profitable stuff. Whereas we've always been, that much more full service firm. And certainly when I was still a corporate partner, we were able to win those sort of multi-billion pound M&A mandate. But it was, because I was able to leverage off the strength and expertise that we had in the energy sector and the infrastructure sector. It was being able to sort of package up kind of our offering in a way that clients found sort of really attractive. And that to me is how, we are going to continue to be successful, is really understanding the client's businesses, really understanding their challenges, their opportunities, and being able to tailor our advice, whether it's M&A or finance or litigation or, whatever it is, in a way that is really tailored for them, rather than coming in and saying, we're the best M&A firm, we're the best finance firm, and therefore you should sort of give us this job. And I think in a technology enhanced world, I think that's going to, my bet is that's going to be ever more important, that relationships are really going to be the differentiator, because technology is going to tell you what the law is and deal with a lot of process stuff. What it isn't going to do is, is that sort of bedside manner and really understanding, how does the regulator deal with this particular issue in these circumstances? Having that breadth of knowledge, I think, is going to be a real distinguishing factor for us.
The thing that AI will never have is context, right?
Yeah.
Which you have from building relationships.
I feel like AI will have everything, won't it?
But it won't be in every single room and in every single conversation. So,
well, and I talk to a lot of clients about this as they go through their own digital transformation journey, as we do, is clients will value and buy wisdom and judgment. And I think whilst our clients remain humans, then they will value that wisdom and judgment of fellow humans. As soon as the clients are AI, I mean, I've seen Terminator. I know what happens, right?
Where's
the missiles.
positivity?
Well, hopefully, kind of. I'm in my 50s now. Hopefully, I'll be
has a happy ending.
Yeah, I'll be dead. Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering who the John Connor of CMS will be.
I haven't watched Terminator. I feel like I have to say that now,
Okay.
so I can't make any Terminator jokes, or I'm not
fine.
in on the joke. I hope it has, a good ending. That was actually sort of the question around AI, and you said you're very positive. Are you positive about AI and the impact it's going to have on the legal?
I see obviously the risk and threat, but I see huge opportunity. And, obviously AI is a much more material change than most of the technological change that I've lived through in my career. But, if I think back, I'm old enough that, when I started we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have email. We had a word processing system called a Wang. So everyone had a Wang machine on their desks.
Wow.
We still had
Bad branding.
Yeah.
faxes and telexes and the DX system, and kind of younger colleagues watching, listening to this would be like, what is the old man going on about? But what I would say is every technological advancement I've lived through has increased the amount of legal work, and because it's increased the complexity of risk for our clients, and it's also kind of driven efficiency and sped up our ability to sort of deliver. So in the good old days, when you left the office, there was no way for anyone to get hold of you. Whereas now we are kind of on call kind of 24/7 through our devices and stuff. So, and you used to literally mark up documents by hand in many cases with color coding of your markup, and you'd put it in the DX, the postal system between law firms, and then maybe like a week later you'd get something back and you'd sort of forgotten about that deal in the background. So it's hugely different. So yes, of course, AI is going to lead to huge efficiencies, and that will reduce, I suppose, the amount of time that we're spending on individual things. So it's, but I think it's going to kind of create huge opportunity for doing more stuff and adding more value to our clients. So the unit cost of what we currently do absolutely will go down, but I think the number of units that we're able to produce will go up. So I've been saying to clients, appreciate from a slightly self-serving perspective, is saying your legal bills are actually going to go up, but you're going to get a hell of a lot more value for the amount of money that you spend, because you're going to be able to do more deals, you're going to be able to deal with more complexity and risk within your business, and add more value as a consequence. So yeah, I'm an optimist. I don't see AI as the end of our profession or anything like that. I think it's going to be, and what it will absolutely do is make the experience of those coming into our profession, profoundly more interesting. Because trainees, solicitor apprentices, those sort of joining business services, you're not going to be doing proofreading and photocopying and stuff that my generation did. Obviously, learned a huge amount, because my daughter is started as a solicitor apprentice at a different law firm in September, and her experience is going to be markedly different.
Yeah. God, how did you feel about that? About seeing one of your children follow in your footsteps?
Well, it was kind of a weird thing, because my wife, as I say, my wife and I met as trainees. She worked at CMS for a number of years. She now works for the government legal department. And, we didn't push Emma at all towards law. And she was very clear when she was growing up. She's like, Dad, I'm never, ever doing what you and Mum do. I mean, I've seen the toll it has taken. I had no grey hair when I started this job. And then she went to drama school for 2 years. She was training to be an actress.
Is that what you did as well, by the way? Am I right in thinking
I may or may not have.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was kind of like, so in a way I was like thinking, I get to vicariously live my life through you, because I realised at about 18 I could have been a penniless actor or a reasonably well-paid lawyer. So I decided to follow this path. And she loved it at that point. And I think she maybe just got to a point of thinking it's kind of quite an uncertain life. And she's someone who kind of likes structure and certainty. So thought, well, what are the other options? And, you got to love your kids. She decided she was going to drop out of drama school, apply for apprenticeships. At that point, there were only 2 law firms who still had their apprenticeship scheme sort of open for applications. So she applied to both and got one of them. It's like, I mean, she's obviously far more talented than, whereas I think I applied to like 30 or 40 firms for a training contract. And luckily the best firm in the world picked me, but yeah.
Fate.
Indeed.
Do you think there's still sort of acting career ahead of you in years to come?
No.
No.
Although, there are elements, I mean, joking aside, there are elements, I think, where you kind of use those skills in your job. So I remember when I was kind of negotiating, when you're negotiating the same warranty for the 57th time, you have to sort of, let's be honest, you have to pretend that it's like the first time, and you're deeply sort of, deeply personally invested in this, where you're really sort of thinking, I'm not sure I care that much about which way this goes. So yeah, there's an element of that, and maybe there's an element. Certainly things like like presentation skills, and I feel quite comfortable sort of standing up in front of a room full of people and giving a speech or whatever, and that's probably come maybe from from that experience. So yeah, it's helpful, but yeah, quite different.
Well, we are looking forward to Act 2 of your term.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I was quite proud of that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, thank you both. Yeah, it's been really good. And yeah, look, I'm hugely optimistic about the future for our profession, for our firm, for our people. Yeah, green fields ahead, definitely.